Good morning, folks. This is Joe Wesley of the Joe Wesley and Tommy Hilcken sparring session. Monday morning. It was a great weekend. Hope it was for you also. Basically, Tommy won't be able to make it on this morning, and I'll explain that in just a moment. First off, for those of you who are new to us for the first time as opposed to the second time, thank you for joining. And we hope you share in conversation because you gain in value of what we're talking about. For those of us who've been with us before, that just as a reminder, we start off with a little bit early session to kind of allow you to come in early to get a sense of who we are, what we're doing, some background chatter. I talk about it. And as a commercial break here to remind you, you can look at us either live or in replay through YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. We'd love to hear your comments. Please remember, when you do sign into YouTube, that you sign into YouTube either through YouTube or your Google account to leave a comment. Otherwise, you won't be able to. Well, as I said earlier, Tommy won't be able to make it today. He did notify me last night, but I had a preoccupied evening, so I didn't see it until this morning. And as they say in the vernacular, the show must go on. And this is really appropriate because this session of 15 minutes is designed for business owners. And anybody I've met in the industry realize stuff just happens. Whether you plan for it, no matter how hard you plan not to have it happen, it happens. And if you allow yourself to stop each and every time stuff happens, it's hard to get a business moving forward. Now, Tommy and I began this venture. Would have been our 35th session. It is our 35th session because we wanted to answer the challenge that many business owners have that I've met. And to put it in perspective, if you're a solopreneur or even a young office still with staff, that you tend to be a one-man person. I call it a one-man band. We could be more politically correct, and I say person. But basically, you are somebody sitting at a chair. You've got a harness on for your harmonica to blow that. You got a horn you can toot. You got cymbals to your knees you can clap together. You got drums you're playing. And every now and then you pick up around your neck either a guitar or a horn. You're playing that also. And it gets to be fatiguing no matter how adept you are to multitask. I'll say it like that. It's still a challenge to get very good at any one item. And the more you accumulate, the more likely you're going to not do any one item well, and more likely you're going to make mistakes. So wouldn't it be nice if both of us, each of us could find someone who has an expertise in a particular section of what you're trying to accomplish, and let them have that load and run with it so you can better focus on the things you feel most relevant or that you're best with. The challenge is, if it's anything like my challenge has been historically, is finding a person who's credible. Anybody, if you give them money, will come running to you, say, yeah, I'm the one to give the money to. And be it an employee or be it an agent or be it a consultant, whatever it may be, the challenge is I want to spend my hard-earned money as best I can to promote my business and not blow it off someplace. Now, to flip the coin a little bit, as an agent, you're trying to make the sale. You're trying to consummate the deal. And people will say to you at times, hey, Joe, I love the concept. It makes perfect sense. I'd love to be able to do it, but I just don't have the money. Common phrase, yes? And admittedly, unless you're AT&T or Amazon or IBM, many of us aren't going to have a budget or marketing budget to play around with. However, I'll say this as an agent to be, as a consultant to be. If you who've made that statement, I love it, but I don't have the money for it. Not even I can't afford it. I don't have the money for it. If you were to lose your phone, if your muffler to your car was to drop off, or your computer screen was to go dead, I guarantee within 36 hours at worst, you'd have it replaced. Somehow you come up with the money. And why is that? Because it's clear to you the value, the need for that particular item for you to move your business forward. So on either side of the coin, as a consumer to be or a consultant provider to be, the issue here is not so much whether I have the money or not. Most of us don't, honestly. But if we feel we're going to get more value back than we're putting money into, we give it serious thought. So the reason Tommy and I began our program was it doesn't matter in this instance, my point to be made, what he does, but he's a public speaker, a confidence coach. I'm still not saying that correctly, I'm sure. And get out there, and we all understand, folks, intellectually in our heads, that if we're going to present our business, we have to verbalize it, whether it's solo in person, whether it's solo on virtual media, whether it's with props and slides or anything else. At some point, if we choose to keep our business a secret, no one's going to come because we don't know that we exist. So the concept is that we intuitively understand that if you want to promote your business, you have to at some point get in front of people. Now, it could be digital, it could be virtual, it could be social media. However, at some point, you have to be present to that person, make enough sense to them that you become their lost cell phone or you become their dropped off muffler, and they really, really have to have your service. Or product. So Tommy and I began this program because he's a confident public speaker, but I'm the naysayer. And I really am of sorts that honestly, I was not, as opposed to dishonest, I was not born as a confident person. I'm still an introvert as part of who I am as a character. And I'm not one that thrives to be up on the stage to make my commentary heard. And when I go to, back in the day, physical meetings and even now virtual meetings, a moderator will sometimes ask, who wants to be the first to give their elevator pitch? Now understand, we're all there to sell, if nothing else. Some of us may also be there to purchase, but most of us are there to sell. And we understand that here's the moment. I'm in this crowd that somehow through osmosis and karma, people are going to say, hey, Joe, you're just the guy I've been looking for. Don't believe until I give you my paycheck or my credit card. It doesn't work that way. So the paradox here is that when the moderator asks who wants to be the first one to stand up and give their elevator pitch, it's like people found religion. They all drop their heads like in prayer or reflection and focus hard on their cell phone, not to be the first one up there. Why? Because maybe we get it wrong, maybe we're embarrassed, maybe we're not sure the value we're presenting. I've heard people say, well, I don't feel I have anything important enough to say. That usually reflects more website than it does presenting, but I'm sure it still flows over. I'm not clear who I am. Well, the purpose of our bashing back and forth, Tommy and I, was to give hopefully some clarity, hopefully some ability to make a distinction that, yeah, Joe, you make good points. And yeah, those are my concerns also. And I'm glad how you guys get in there and bash at each other of point counterpoint, because it gets me to think more about where I am, what I am, how I am, perhaps. Well, this happens to be my particular skill. It was my idea. Tommy and I talked about it. We did deliberately not decide not to rehearse because we didn't want to come across as artificial. In all fairness, I gave him a topic of discussion. In all fairness, not so much to give him any advantage, because he will take advantage of it, but to give myself a focus of dialogue back and forth. So the platform was, he makes this point, I make the counterpoint, and provide an environment that it makes hopefully more sense to you, the audience, what you're listening to. Well, since Tommy's not here today, I'm going to take advantage of it, folks. And the concept being, we're going back to the example of being your own business owner. And not only who do I choose that's going to best represent my business to help my business grow, but understand we have that same burden as business owners. Who is the consumer going to choose to represent their best interest? And it could be another B2B business environment. It could be a B2C consumer environment. But the challenge is always, why should I choose you and not the competition. So the purpose of these sessions, and certainly for today's talk, and I'm going to refer to notes because this was a last minute deal for me, so I may look down every now and then, but to address the challenge of how do you stand out from the competition. Because we talk about finding the right market, finding the right client, defining it, going after it. But we talk about consumerism is based on what the buyer wants and not so much what the seller wants or the agent to be wants it to be. So the concept here is, as we focus on who's our ideal market, we chant the mantra of 80% plus of people will give you their business because they respect, like, and trust you. I call it the RLT syndrome. So when we're talking about finding your consumer market, your ideal market, anybody who does a business plan, that's one of the first things they ask. We forget the more important part of that equation is, for the consumer, who is their ideal client? I was in a setting once back in the day when we had physical meetings, and one guy when prompted to ask, what is your ideal market? As part of his soundbite, he kind of said, well, he's in renewable energy. I'm not picking on the industry, but it was a good example. And he says, anybody who turns on a light switch is my ideal client. And then he kind of sits back in a smug manner and says, well, I've pretty much covered everybody in this room, so flock to me before the meeting is over or right after, and give me your name and let's do business. But what he forgot to recognize, there were a lot and still a lot of people providing renewable energy services. I'm sure many of us I get at least 1 or 2 phone calls a month from somebody representing water, gas, electricity, whatever it may be. They're going to make it better for me in an economic manner, perhaps. So what many people forget is, or they don't know how to go about, how to be the ideal agent for that ideal client in your ideal market. Well, my role is to help you get there. And because people are overwhelmed with everybody saying, oh, here's the argument. And you go to a meeting, the first 3 things they ask you, and we're getting back there besides your name, is what do you do? Because quite frankly, if you're a hairstylist, you're probably not somebody I'm going to have interest in, either for me or what I might provide for you, maybe. I'll ask you, how long have you been in business? Because I want you to qualify your expertise. If you're 2 days into it, you probably will be a different person 2 days from now. The third item is always ask, and this is the complaint I hear all the time, what's your cost? And the moment that question is asked, you are now much, much more a commodity, obviously, than being seen as a valued service. And one of the chief complaints business owners have is the first thing they want to do is talk my price down. Because you're a commodity. I feel I can go on Google or connect, YouTube, whatever it may be, and find anybody within a few seconds who's cheaper, closer, more accommodating than you are. So we go back to the challenges again, not just finding your ideal market, but how do you become your ideal agent for that particular ideal market you have in mind? And this moment of Tommy not being able to make it was opportune not only for me, but also for you. And I really would like your feedback on this. I will be starting a separate YouTube program, and actually, sorry for the vernacular there, a podcast program, where I'm going to take call-ins, and I'm going to ask what I call it your secret sauce. What makes you different? And what do I mean by that? The advantage you have over the competition is you have a unique quality that nobody else has. And the more clearly you resonate that quality, announce it, the more clearly your market will respond to you over the competition. My role is to help you find it. So I'm going to set a podcast to challenge you on that, and if we'll see how it works out for you. But if you participate, you're going to benefit a lot more than you would have anticipated. So please, if you have interest, you're hearing this for the first time live or by replay, pop your name in, your contact information. I will get back to you. There will be more pronouncements. So if you forget to get into contact with us, then feel free to connect with me. Either, again, through my 3 different programs, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Share your information with me. I'll keep you updated. But I think you'll enjoy it. You'll have fun with it, and your business will gain because of it also. So, thank you, Tommy, for not being on today, but I do miss you, and I hope we'll see each other again next week. I think we will. But more importantly, folks, thanks for joining us. Leave your comments, share your thoughts, get in touch with me. Let's learn and grow from this. I'm Joe Wesley, J&L Creative Solutions. Have a good day. Be productive. Stay safe.